really need to change. Now, having said that, tonight we're joined by a special guest, Khaduyu Michael. He's going to tell me whether Khaduyu is the right way of pronouncing his name. Khaduyu Michael from Africa Youth Commission. He's a project lead over there, and he's also a climate advocate. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
And I'm glad to be here.
All right. In 30 seconds, tell us who you are and what you do for African Youth Commission, and what is African Youth Commission?
Okay, thank you so much. African Youth Commission is a youth organization that was officially founded in 2015, but inaugurated in 2017 in Addis Ababa. And we have our headquarters in the Gambia. Our presence in Africa, we are in 46 countries, but currently I am there implementing a project called African Activists for Climate Justice. It's a consortium of partners, and we are in partnership with Natural Justice, Oxfam Novib, Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, and Femnet. And I am the project lead, the project being implemented in 8 countries, that is South Africa, Mozambique, Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Senegal.
All right.
Thank you.
Who better to talk about this issue, especially on the first question that I have about less than 20% of the world population of women owning or having access to own or control land, and coming from the fact that nearly half of the workforce is actually the women who are in our community. And especially in Africa, now that you are working with African states where most of them have come from a place of patriarchy, and I want to understand if this is averted and more women are given access to land and control over the same, how is this going to solve the issue of desertification and drought?
First of all, let me just say that I agree that women need to be given more rights to own land, but that immediately is not going to solve the issue of desertification, because the issue of desertification needs all hands on deck. Because you find that what needs to be done does not only involve the little efforts that women may end up putting in when, like in their lands, and so it involves even something that goes higher up to policy change and all those things. And I'll say that at least by empowering women, by giving them ownership of the land, it's a start. Because if you know that this is where you eke out your living, you'll really, really have that interest to take care of the land. And I know that, yes, it's true that women are the ones who really till the land, work it, and produce food globally. I'm sure the statistics will back that up. But also at the same time, I'm sure they'll have that innermost desire to take care of the land and make sure that it's more productive. And productive land cannot be allowed to be a semi-arid or a desert at the end of the day. So I'll say that yes, allowing women to own land is a start, but also bringing all hands on deck, like the ministry's efforts, the non-state actor, the private sector, all need to come on board to help women combat desertification.
Okay.
Yes.
Dear viewer, I want to beg your pardon. I forgot to mention one interesting thing. The theme for this year's World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought is Her Land, Her Rights. Hence this particular discussion. Now let's move on and let's talk about different technologies, for sustainable development goals to be achieved, of which this should be among them. Different technologies come into play, and we've also seen the issue of education and empowering women technologically has been on the slow, if I may. So what opportunities can be given to women, especially in using technology in farming, in producing crops, and even handling the production of livestock as well? How can empowering of women be achieved in terms of them having access to technology and education?
No, it's true, because a lot of African women still produce food or till their land using traditional methods. And you find that those are not as effective as because you see, they are using the same technologies that they were using in the 60s, in the 70s, or even in the 1920s, whereby you take the hoe, you go till the land, you weed, all those things. But you know that the conditions have become more worse and more severe, that they need an enhanced form of technology. And the simple way is just like using new farm inputs, like improved seedlings and all those things that can be drought resistant. And you know, when you start empowering, because technology is not only an app or something, it can be like a new seedlings, it can be using farm mechanization, but you know that simple, cheaper technology is not easy to come by. So if there's a way that women can be empowered with technology in a way that they can afford it, that will be a plus for them, because the conditions have become tougher. Because now agriculture, for them to produce the yield that they used to produce earlier in the earlier years, there needs to boost their inputs. And how do you do that? You replace the way they do manual labor with farm mechanizations, like using tractors, using new form of technology. I was just the other day in Kitale, and I found that I know there are people who are anti-pesticides, but there's a pesticide that when you plant and the produce the crops are just sprouted and you spray, there's no need for weeding. And yes, from a technology point of view, that's an improved, but we need to find which is something that is more that aligns with nature. So I understand the issue of technology, and I would be happy to see women being empowered to access all these cheaper, readily available technologies, and that they do not need that when it's time for planting or weeding, it's not there.
All right.
Very readily available, I mean. Yes. All
right. Thank you so much for that. As I introduced this particular conversation, I read a few statistics from the UN, and one of them is that women spend a lot of time, especially in the rural areas, going, and especially in the semi and the semi-arid and arid areas.
Yes.
They go long distances and spend a lot of time to go and fetch water.
True.
Which is an important commodity when it comes to household operations. I'm just thinking, I have a lot of questions when it comes to water, because water is really scarce, and the situation is not getting better. And I'm gonna ask a very hard question.
Go ahead.
What happens? This we know that excess water is going to a place where it's not needed. The ocean levels are rising and all that, and you know the icebergs are warming up and becoming water. Yet the places that we need water, we may not be able to find it. What is the best? Because people have tried to deal with water problem. People have dug boreholes, but still the problem continues to move around, because especially of the impoverished communities. What is the immediate solution, and what is the long-term solution, if you may, for this problem?
I think you've mentioned something that is really, really important, and I want to say to the viewers, digging boreholes is a short-term solution. And the short-term may be 40, 50 years, but if you want something that is sustainable, the government needs to take stern actions. And this is a simple answer that I want to give. We need to recharge our underground aquifers. They are going dry.
Please explain that.
Let me pick an example of Njoro and Nakuru region. That region the water table used to be very high. You dig just a well and you'll find water from a few meters. But now, because of the dry natures and everything that has been happening, you find that the wells, the people who dug the boreholes earlier, they now don't have water. They need to dig deeper. If it was this one that was dug by a machine, you have to invite them to excavate the pipes, drill deeper, so that you can go deeper to the water table. And you know, the more we attend around like this square meters and we dig a borehole, all of us, the more the water table goes sinking. What is the solution? The immediate solution is that Kenya, by the way, there's this fallacy that Kenya doesn't have enough water. Kenya will receive a lot of water during any rainy season nowadays, and it ends up in form of floods. We have a national water harvesting authority, but to me, it's not doing its work properly. Because going just and digging seasonal water tanks to help in the ASAV areas, that's not a solution. There are studies that were done. There was a study that was done, and a friend of mine who's a doctor who teaches at the University of Nairobi Geography told me that studies have been done, and there are areas that the excess flood water can be channeled and to percolate down and trickle down to go recharge the underground aquifers. The question is, why has it not been done? And it's not something expensive that needs a proper technology. It's just channeling the water in a proper way. So what I can say, and also maybe correct the notion that yes, the sea levels are rising because the world storage, which is the poles, the glaciers that were had the ice sheets are melting. But that's because we've messed up the atmosphere. So that's not our water. That is the global storage. But Kenya, we receive enough rainfall. Let's be honest. Because if you want to know that we receive enough rainfall, compare the amount of water we receive when it's raining vis-a-vis the amount of water that we may be given by the experts we need for the whole year. So it's just that we are leaving the whole of water trickle down to the Indian Ocean, other going to Lake Victoria, which ends up going to Egypt, rather through the Nile, others. We don't know how it's being used, but should we use our water effectively, then we will not have an issue. Before I stop maybe on this question, a simple question is this. And at the sound of not being political or bashing the former governors that were from the coastal region, there's a project, my former employer is YWCA, and if you go to their branch in Likoni, they have a give water. They partnered with a youth organization that they desalinate seawater. And when my first day we were going there, I doubted. And they told me, please test the water when you are washing your hands, and it was purely salty. And I was given the water it's pure. And they're using solar technology. The cost of the entire setup was something for 52 million Kenya shillings. So my question is, the county government of Lamu, Kilifi, Kwale, do you mean to tell me they cannot even put up one single water desalination plant? I know there was a plan when the former governor of Mombasa saw that this was successful. So he was so, with a red face, promised 8 in each sub-county that they will set up one to get. No, nothing is functional. And it's as simple as putting up the solar panels, which are with improved technology, the storage batteries, and you pump the water and desalinate it through reverse osmosis, and the process is okay. The question is, why hasn't it been done? So sometimes when you talk about water issues, to me they are more of a lack of government enforcing what it put to paper in form of policy. Yes.
All right. You speak so passionately, but unfortunately, our time is up for the discussion. I'm going to ask you for your parting shot, even as we talk about, the yields, because when you talk about her land, her rights, many women in the farms producing crops of different kinds. What can you say to the women specifically? In less than 3 hours, it's going to be their day. Her land, her rights. We have advocates left, right, center advocating for them to acquire more access to land and control over the same, which, as you say, has its way of how it should go. So what do you have to say to them, even as we end this particular conversation?
I think my parting shot will be the public needs to have proper information. Because if you look at our laws on inheritance, there's some good progress, and women, especially wives, and even sisters, have been empowered enough now by the law that they can inherit their father's property or their late husband's property. The thing is that if you go to the rural areas down in Mashinani, you find that a widow may be suffering not because they lack proper information. Unless you have a strong-willed woman who will push and go to courts or even to the local authority to push for her rights, she may end up losing her property. So my parting shot is that women outside there, especially if you are a woman in Kenya, the law has empowered you to inherit or own land that belongs to your husband or your father. So do not allow the men take away your land, especially during this theme of her land, her rights, during the World Desertification Day.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That is Khaduyu Michael, who is, did I pronounce your name right? You never said
Khaduyu.
Khaduyu.
Yes.
Khaduyu Michael from African Youth Commission. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for listening into this particular conversation, and we continue to talk about environmental matters here on KUTVs on KUTV on Fridays, and health matters as well. So be sure to catch up our next